Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight. I'm Mike Kenichi, and I'm honored today because last week we had Shelton standout Anthony Steele, and today we have his teammate, who's also an SEC selection. He's a tremendous pitcher, and his name is Connor Jensen. And Connor, I want to thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
You know, Connor, it's hard to believe, man. Last time I saw you, you were about 11 years old, maybe 12 years old. I know back then you were very much into basketball. So just let me ask you, when did the love for baseball actually start for you?
I've really always loved baseball. I can't really remember a specific moment where I
Right.
really fell in love with it. I played t-ball, I played coach pitch, and then I moved on to majors and through Little League. But I always used to have a catch with my dad in the backyard, and yeah, I've always loved baseball.
Right. And, you know, I used to remember, you know, your father and you would always practice your basketball game at Perry Hill, you know, work out at the gym there and stuff. Did you
Yeah.
continue to play basketball after sixth grade? How did that go for you?
I did stop playing basketball in, I want to say, seventh grade. So after I left Perry Hill, I didn't play rec anymore.
Right.
And that was more for the baseball side. I just wanted to put my focus into lifting and getting stronger. So trust me, I do still play pickup basketball games because I
Right.
do love basketball, but I have a love for baseball. So I didn't want to get injured because I did have one small hip injury from basketball. So that kind of led me towards getting stronger and not playing anymore, unfortunately. But
Right. Well, you know, sounds like you made the right choice. But let me ask you this, Connor. Was there anybody you kind of emulated growing up or idolized? You're a Yankee fan, am I correct?
I am a Yankee fan.
Right. So, I mean, was there anybody? I mean, as a kid, I would think, you know, some of the Yankee players, you had Mark Teixeira, of course, Derek Jeter was still playing. You also had A-Rod. And, you know, was there any one player on that team that you pretty much idolized that, you know, made you love the game?
I love Derek Jeter because he has such a respect for his teammates, his coaches, the game itself. He just is the definition of what a baseball player should be.
Right.
And to look up to him, it looking up to a pro like that makes you hold yourself accountable for the things you do. You know,
Right.
if an umpire makes a bad call or something, he would never, ever say a word, regardless of the circumstances. If it was in the World
Right.
Series or regardless of the game, he just played the game. He knew he was good, but he just played and he let his actions speak for him. He didn't need to say anything. So I
Right.
think that was, he's remarkable.
Right. And that's something you don't see much of anymore, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Um, Let me ask you this. When did you start pitching? How old were you, would you say?
I started pitching in Little League. I had a coach, Darren Toth, who I ended up moving on to play travel ball with. He created a Shelton team. But my
Right.
first pitching experience was after coach pitch with him. And I was fortunate enough to be bigger than most people in
Right.
Little League. So I had more of an arm than most kids. And I fell in love with pitching because I had a lot of control then too, which was uncommon for that age group.
Right.
So that's when I really fell in love with pitching. Was in what is that called? Just majors or
Majors. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, it's been a
Right.
while.
So let me ask you this. I asked Anthony this as well, but what is the most challenging thing about pitching? Never mind, you know, trying to get the guys out, you know, things like that, but just keeping your arm in game shape and and avoiding injuries. What do you think is the most challenging for you?
It's a lot of work. I think doing the boring stuff is the hardest thing for me.
Right.
Um, One of my weaknesses with pitching is I'm not the most flexible person on the planet. So
Right.
obviously with pitching, it's a whole kinetic chain of energy that you're trying to transfer smoothly. And when
Right.
you're not the most flexible person, you need to work on mobility and stretching, and I think
Right.
that's one of the most boring parts of the game, but that's one of the things that will take you to the next level that I think is important for me.
Right. And Connor, the thing of it is too is you know, you have to get about 3 or 4 days rest after you pitch, stuff like that. How do you feel like the next day after you pitch, say, a 6 or 7 inning game? Do you feel sore, or how long does it take you to kind of where your arm feels comfortable again?
I do, and it's not so much my arm itself, which is good. It's more my upper right back and really whole body, which is okay. But it usually takes about 2 days to get most of the soreness away.
Right.
And then some games, if I push the limit of the pitch limit up to 110, our pitch limit is in high school, then I'll feel it a little bit more for
Right.
maybe 3 or 4 days. But um, yeah, lifting definitely helps to not get as sore after an outing. But yeah.
Right. And Connor, I'll use Roger Clemens as a good example because, when I watched him pitch for the Yankees, he was the type of guy that was always focusing on keeping his legs strong because as important as it is to keep your arms strong, you need your legs in order to pitch. And I mean, between innings, he'd be in the trainer's room on the treadmill. He always stayed fit. What do you do like as far as conditioning goes to keep yourself fresh?
Yeah, so I do a ton of reverse lunges, which really focuses on stability and strength,
Right.
and deadlifts, and I throw in some running in between. Um, I do a lot of agility work just to try and be as much of an. I know the common thing is pitchers aren't athletes, but
Right.
as a pitcher, when I'm trying to train, I try to be as much of an athlete as I can because a pitching delivery is an athletic motion.
Right.
So I think you don't try and train the upper body as much, or you're not trying to build your arm to a
Right.
point where you're a bodybuilder. You're trying to build from the ground up. Your legs, you pitch with your legs. You don't pitch with your arm. So it's
Right.
crucial to have strong legs.
Right. And Connor, these feeder programs have been so, instrumental and so much success of so many teams. I look at Seymour softball, they've won all those championships because it started at their feeder program. Let me ask you, how old were you when you did your first travel league?
I was 10 years old, and
Right.
that's when I started with Darren, who is one of my best coaches that I've ever had because he held us all accountable. I don't know if you know him, but he is a very
Right.
tough man.
Right. Which isn't a bad thing. I
It's
mean,
not a bad thing. He taught me a
right.
lot about life, never mind the game of baseball, but just about life in general. Why stand out on the field after making an error and cry? It's not
Right.
worth it. So he was a phenomenal coach for me that taught me a lot. And it was my first travel program too, which was a new
Right.
experience. And I
And
still
now,
play travel to this day.
did you pitch the first year in travel, or did
I
we
did.
kind of, gradually slide you in?
No, I did pitch a good amount in travel that first year.
Right.
Um, yeah.
And let me ask you, was there a difference in your opinion between, Little League and travel? What would you say the big difference? What was the thing you learned the most about pitching for travel as opposed to Little League?
Travel, I'd say, was more competitive in that you were facing kids from
Different
many other
towns. Yeah.
towns. Little League was a lot of fun, but I think travel, meeting other kids from other towns and seeing the talent level that's out there is eye-opening.
Right.
And it's a lot of fun. Even today, my travel team is going to New York, to
Wow.
a bunch of other states to compete. So we're going to see a lot of talent that is in this country, which is pretty cool.
Right. And Connor, obviously you've had a lot of success. You had a great year, which we're going to get to soon. But, there's always those days where you're not going to have your best stuff. I mean, let me ask you, can you tell warming up in the bullpen if you're going to have it today or not? Like, can you tell when you're just like, wow, I have nothing today?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, the highs and the lows of baseball. That's what makes the game so rewarding. Is when you have those highs, it feels amazing. But at the same time, you have lows,
Right.
and fighting through those lows is the hardest part of pitching. Is you can have a game where you're on, and it's incredible. It's so much fun to pitch, but you can also have a game that you have one pitch maybe that's working, and
Right.
you have to find a way to get out of it. So yeah, in the bullpen before you can, I'll say to my catcher, I'll say, yeah, I'm not feeling it today. I'm not feeling the
Right.
curveball. I'm not whatever.
Right.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
let me ask you, you just talked about, maybe having one pitch. How many pitches do you have, and what would you say is your strongest pitch?
Yep, I have a fastball, I have a curveball, and a changeup. And
Right.
sometimes I'll mix in a different arm angle with a slider. Um, I'd say right now my fastball and changeup are probably my out pitches.
Right.
The curveball is getting there. I think it wasn't as consistent as I would have liked it to been in the high school season. It
Right.
certainly was an out pitch that I used, but I'd say the fastball and the changeup were pretty beneficial.
Right. And Connor, the thing is with travel too, correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of your games, most of them are usually double headers, correct? When you play
Yes.
travel.
Yep.
So, that's one thing to look at. That's the best thing about baseball where, you know, you could strike out and then you can make up for it in the field. Or you could have a bad game pitching and then, you play a game right after that and you could hit a home run or something or get a big hit. So I mean, baseball always gives you the chance to redeem yourself right away. Let me ask you though, after you've pitched a game and then you have to go play the field the next game, I mean, are you exhausted though a little bit because you've just thrown like 100 pitches and stuff like that?
Physically, yeah, I'd say
Yeah.
I'm pretty tired. Um, but luckily, I did switch to playing outfield,
Right.
which was a good move for college because I was told by coaches that if you're going to the next level, they have first basemen that are 6'7", and
Right.
I'm just not that height. So I decided to use my arm in the outfield um, for college, and I think that gives me a little bit of a break rather than because I used to play first base. So
Right.
you're throwing in between innings, that kind of thing. So outfield was a better move for being a secondary position.
Right. So let me ask you, Connor, when you mentioned seventh grade, you stopped playing basketball, but obviously you continue playing baseball. Did you play for the Shelton intermediate team both years when you were in junior high?
I did not. No,
No. No.
nope.
So you
I
just stuck with travel, right?
stuck
Correct.
with travel. Yeah,
Right.
I had some really great coaching at that time, and I still do. I'll mention him at a later point, but Jake Wackenshaw is a
Right.
guy that got drafted out of my college that I'm going to, Southern New Hampshire, and
Right.
he is a great mentor. He's in the gym lifting. He talks to me all the time about trusting the process. If you hit up an extreme high and then the
Yep.
next week you come in and your velocity dropped by 5 miles an hour, that's part of baseball. And sometimes you can't explain why, but
Right.
so I stuck around those guys because I just had so much fun with them, and
Yeah.
I had friends that I worked out with, so it was just a lot of fun.
Right. So now, you begin freshman year of high school and you played for the freshman team that year with Anthony and, a few of your other teammates. How did that go freshman year for you?
I actually played sophomore year
Sophomore
on
year. Okay.
JV, and
Right.
unfortunately, I didn't get to play with Anthony that year because he was up on varsity.
Right. So you
Um,
didn't go out freshman year. You just played travel
I
that year.
was injured. At the beginning of the season, I had a slight arm problem.
Yeah.
So the doctor, I have a sports medicine doctor, and she told me that she didn't want me to pitch or throw for 6 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So that
Yeah.
was almost the majority of the season. So I didn't see a point to come back and play.
Right.
So unfortunately, I missed that freshman year, but I was able to come back my sophomore year and play JV, and we had a ton of fun.
Right. And you pitched a lot that year? Or
Yes,
yeah.
yes, I
And
pitched a lot.
who was the coach for that team? Because we never, we don't want to ever leave out the coaches because they're an important part of the success of the team. Who was the coach for the JV team that year?
That was Coach Van Scoy.
Right.
Yeah, and he was phenomenal. He's a great person. Yeah, he taught us the fundamentals of baseball, and we ran with it and had a great time.
Right. Now, were you ever brought up to varsity, like just to be there, just in case they wanted to put you in? Did you see any varsity action your sophomore year?
I didn't play any varsity games. I did get called up to some of the state's games to dress, and
Right.
then some of the regular season games as well. I got called up to dress.
Right. Now, let me ask you, Connor. I'm going to get to this pandemic in a second, but let me just ask you, before you guys got shut down last year, were you in the mix to be one of the starters your junior year on the staff? I mean, like, did you have a good shot of being one of the top 2 pitchers of that team?
That's a good question. I actually don't have an answer for that. I don't know. But yeah, that team would have been phenomenal. I wish I could have played with that team for their junior year, because that team, I think, could have won a state championship.
Right. And now I want to get to that, Connor. I asked Anthony this. I've asked, mostly any kid that's in high school and even coaches as well. How did it affect you? Because, I mean, I don't think any of us thought when everything shut down March 12th that, it was going to be, we were going to lose the season. School was going to be canceled for the rest of the year. Just tell me, like, how it affected you personally.
Yeah, I mean, it was an adjustment to make. I thought I adjusted pretty well to the pandemic. It was something that I don't think many people have experienced before, if at all. I know my parents say all the time, it's nothing like we've seen. And, it's something that baseball helped me get through it, because I was able to work out with a small group of friends and go to the field and play baseball. So we managed to get through it.
Right.
But yeah, I think it was difficult for everyone. It's crazy.
Were you able to play summer ball that year at least? Or?
I was. That was huge, because I was able to play travel.
Right.
And I'm obviously I'm lifting all year round. So I'm always working on baseball. So missing that season for me didn't necessarily hurt me, but it would have been really nice to have been able to play.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's also a season you can never get back, which is unfortunate. And those seniors, I can't imagine what they went through. It was just awful.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Did you think in the fall there would be a season this year, or were you a little skeptical that there would be?
I thought we were going to have one. We weren't 100%.
Right.
I was more afraid of getting shut down mid-season or even at the end of the season when we were approaching the state playoffs. But I thought we were going to have a season. I was just nervous that one of us would come down with COVID and the whole team would have to shut down, which thank God that did not happen, because we played all our games.
Right. And, Connor, a lot of kids, I know at least Aunt Sonia did it. I think Derby did it a little bit. Some of the kids, did virtual learning during the baseball season because they didn't want to take the chance of being in school and having a quarantine. I mean, was there ever a thought about you doing that just to make sure that you stayed on the field?
We actually didn't have that option. All athletes at Shelton High that were playing during the season had to be in school.
Right.
In order to play. So that's what we all did.
Right. So now let's get to the season. The season starts, I'm sure Coach Gurra told you in the winter that you were going to be one of the guys on the staff. Just let me ask you, mentally, how did you prepare for that season? What did you do in the winter to get ready?
The same thing I would do for my travel season or high school, really whatever.
Right.
Lifting all winter and pretty much all year. I give myself a few weeks break, but lifting to get ready, throwing to get ready for that season. And I was really pumped to play this high school season because there was no season last year. And it's my final hurrah for high school. So it was I had some things I wanted to prove, and I think our team had some things we wanted to prove, and I think we did a really good job.
Right. Well, let's start off right off the bat with, to me, the biggest highlight of your season was the one hitter you pitched against Hand High School, who, you know, many people felt would win this whole thing this year, run all the way to states and, win it. And just talk about that one hitter and that terrific gem you pitched and the team pulling off the upset.
Yeah, I mean that a couple weeks before we played that game, we held them tight. Our pitcher Benny Van Tyne did a phenomenal job. He's a little crafty lefty that
Right.
kept them on their toes, but they didn't really hit him. They couldn't hit him. So he ran out of pitches, and I had to come in and relieve. And I threw a wild pitch and went to cover home plate, and I got hit in the head and got a concussion.
Oh, man.
So that set me back 2 weeks.
Right.
But I called Coach Skura 2 days after I got hit, and I said, I want to pitch that game because I want revenge. And
right.
for that whole 2 weeks leading up to that game, I just had adrenaline going. I'd say for 2 weeks straight.
Right.
Because I just was so frustrated that had to happen. So I just let it all out in that game, and it was amazing. It was so much fun.
Right. And just talk about, what it felt like for you after, the game was over, were you speechless kind of? I mean, did you feel numb? I mean, it was just one of the finest performances in a high school pitcher's career.
Yeah, it was surreal, I'd say.
Right.
I didn't really have words for it, and I still don't, because it was just amazing. Our whole team came together and, beat the number one team at the state at the time. And it's just a big accomplishment for all of us. Anthony Steele had the big home run, which put us ahead, which was huge, because as a pitcher, you don't want to pitch in a 0-0 game because there's not much to work with. You want to be ahead, obviously. So that was a big hit, and our team was clutch. And that's what I could say about our team is we were extremely gritty.
Right. And, Connor, you talked about coming in relief for that Hand game, but there was one game you came in relief that ended a drought, and that was when you came in relief for the Amity game, and you guys pulled off that upset. That was the first time Shelton beat them in like 5 or 6 years. Just talk about that game a little bit.
Yeah, that was another great performance by our team. Again, our team, my coach Gura has said it many times that we don't have the most talent out of all the teams in the state. But what we do have is heart. Our team plays with so much heart, and that was just a great example of it. We ended up winning on a walk-off wild pitch, which was kind of funny because which
is unusual. Yep.
Yeah, we had a fair share of our own wild pitches that we gave up runs on, and here we are. We win on a wild pitch, but yeah, it was that was actually a game I was sore for that I had to come in and relieve. So I had to find a way to get out of it and win the game.
Right. And, Connor, I mean, your stats, I talked to Anthony and his stats, he tied that record with the 17 strikeouts, against Cheshire or East Haven. And I think what's really telling, though, Connor, is you had 64 strikeouts in 35 innings, 35 innings pitching, which is just unbelievable. That's almost, it's about 2 strikeouts, an inning and stuff like that. And I think you had like a 1.60 ERA. Just talk about how, it's difficult to pitch, in the SCC, but to put up the numbers you put up. I mean, you do have to be very proud of what you accomplished this season.
I am. I will not lie. I'm proud of what I accomplished because I did set goals before the season started of what I wanted to do.
Right.
And hitting those goals and exceeding a couple of them just, it means the world to me that I was able to get those opportunities and play with a bunch of guys that had my back and I had their back. It was a great season that I will never forget. It's just amazing.
Right. And, Connor, obviously your pitching gets a lot of the recognition, but you were a pretty good hitter as well. And, I think you had 2 home runs in that game against Ward, in the state game. But just let me ask you, I asked Anthony this as well. He honestly, said he loves them both, but which one do you like better, pitching or hitting?
I'm with Anthony. I like them both, but I do lean towards more pitching because I love it. It's something that I can't wait to do every time I go out on the mound. I'm just in my zone. I have control of the game, and it's just, yeah, I'd say pitching.
Right. And Connor, I know everybody's dream is to win a state title, but it's very hard to do. But you guys had a tremendous year. I think you finished 11-6 or 11-7, and then you won a game in the states. So I mean, you guys had a tremendous season, considering you lost a lot of seniors as well. I mean, do you look back on it and say, you know what, we have nothing to be ashamed about. We did everything we could have done this year.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point because I don't think we thought we could have won the state championship. There was just you have to win 5 games.
Right.
And it's challenging, like you said, but we did have goals as a team to beat some of the top teams in the state, and we did that. And we played a lot of the teams that we played very close when we didn't win,
Right.
and we only lost by a small margin on a bunch of them. So I think as a whole, we had a very, very good season for the circumstances.
Right. And Connor, talk about the other seniors on this team, yourself, Anthony, I believe Matt. Just talk about what they've meant to this team. And because you guys, a big reason why you guys had success this year is because you guys were a team. There was no selfishness. Everybody did what was best for the team. So just talk about these seniors a little bit.
Yeah, I think this is one of the best senior classes, and I know our coaches have said it too, is they didn't have any trouble with us. We just went out and practiced every single day. We
Right.
worked hard. We never complained. And we played with so much heart that we won some huge games. It just, our senior class was such a great example for our underclassmen to keep this Shelton tradition of playing great baseball going. And I can't say enough about our senior class that is graduating. It's just great kids, great friends. They're phenomenal.
Right. And you talked about the underclassmen a little bit. Let me ask you, who do you who do you see taking over this pitching staff in the next couple of years that could really help this team, be successful? What pitchers have you seen that could really, be a big impact for the Shelton team going forward?
Yeah, we have a lefty, Roy, and
Right.
we have a righty, Dylan, who are two very good pitchers.
Dylan Ziegler, is it?
Dylan Ziegler, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And he's a very good hitter, too.
He's a very
Yeah.
good hitter.
Right.
He has some pop on his fastball. He's very good.
Right.
He actually plays at our travel program. I work out with him a bunch.
Right.
But those are two very good pitchers. We have the Halfley twins that are going to probably pitch a good amount. Yeah.
So the future is bright for Shelton High School. They're definitely going to keep on moving. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Now, let me ask you, Connor. I ask this question a lot, and you're kind of young, so I don't know like how much you really follow it, but one of the things I think that is ruining Major League Baseball is the analytics. I don't like it. I think this nonsense where you can't pitch to the same batter 3 times is ridiculous. Just let me ask you, as a Yankee fan, and you watch them and stuff. I mean, does it bother you when you see Aaron Boone pull Garrett Cole after 6 innings? I mean, look at Jacob DeGrom, the kind of year he's having. He's pitching maybe 7 innings at most. Do you kind of dislike the analytics?
Yeah, I think they're good to a certain extent, but I think it's been taken too far because I like the old-fashioned baseball where you just go out there and play. Just do it.
Right. Exactly.
Don't complicate it more than it has to be.
Right.
And I would agree. Garrett Cole is one of the best pitchers in the game, and I'd place my bets to have Garrett Cole out there than any other pitcher on the Yankee staff. So I totally agree with the analytics become too much.
Oh, it's just awful.
Yeah.
Now, Connor, you had a couple personal highlights after the season ended. The first, I mean, at making all SEC, and Connor, that's a big accomplishment for a lot of reasons. Number one, you are playing with the best of the best in that SEC. There's so many talented players. It's not easy to do that. And you're also, Connor, in a school that I believe has over 2,000 kids in it. So you can be good in travel and then you get to a big school like that, and sometimes you can't find your way on the field because there's just so many kids, and there could be like, 5 or 6 kids who are just as good. For you to make SEC, going to Shelton High School, pitching in that, tough Southern Connecticut conference, that had to just mean so much to you on a personal level when Coach Gurra told you that you were selected.
Yeah, and that was one of my goals at the beginning of the season because I wasn't able to play varsity my sophomore year. So
Right.
not having a season last year, none of us other than Anthony and Max, who are our two captains this year, had any varsity experience. So we all had to
Right.
earn a spot and keep the spot throughout the year. So I think that was for us to have to prove that we can play the positions that we were at
Right.
was difficult, but it was also very rewarding when you receive an award like that. It just shows that your hard work pays off.
Right. Now, let me ask you, sometimes coaches like to, you know, build it up, make it a surprise. Did Coach Gurra have a way of telling you about it that kind of threw you off at all, or how did he mention it to you?
He mentioned it actually at one of our state's practices at the
Right.
beginning of the practice. So it was I definitely did not expect it. I wasn't
Right.
looking for it by any means, but he said it, and me and Anthony both were selected for the first team All SEC, which was
Right.
very cool.
Right. And, that's an awesome accomplishment, one that you should always be proud of. And, Connor, I know your dad, if I'm not mistaken, he grew up in Shelton, I think around off of Plaskin Drive, somewhere
Yep.
over there. So, I mean, Shelton's always kind of been in your family. I mean, so that had to be very rewarding that, your father who grew up there and then now you grew up there, you make all SEC. You have to feel pretty proud that, you did something, good for the town that you live in and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think my dad is extremely proud because he is a Shelton alumni. So
Right.
he loves it. He loves every bit of it. And he played basketball in high school. So,
Right.
that Shelton heritage just keeps going. And I think he loves it.
Right. And now the second honor, Connor, that it means a lot to any player. You received the Ed Morocco prestigious Player of the Year award. In honor of the late former Shelton baseball coach Eddie Morocco, who coached so many years. Just
Yeah.
talk about that feeling when they announced your name that you had, received that prestigious award.
Yeah, that award means more to me than any other accomplishment I could have had this season because it's in the name of a former Shelton High coach that so many people loved. And for me to receive an award in his name
Right.
is just the utmost honor I could receive. It's just, I thank Coach Gurra and the Ed Morocco family. It's amazing that they would even think of me to receive that award.
Right. And Connor, just talk about Coach Gurra a little bit because, he was your coach. Again, you weren't able to play last year, but you still had him, as your coach sophomore and senior year. I know you dealt with the JV coach more, but just talk about what he did to help you this season because, again, it's very rare when a first year varsity player makes all SEC because, again, sometimes kids have already, had a year's experience playing and stuff. And, what would you say about him and how he helped you have the season you had?
I go back to that Daniel Hand game when I called him and said I want to pitch that game.
Right.
He gave us all opportunities, and he really spent so much time with this team to make us better. We were working with him on days that other teams in the state weren't, and I
Right.
think that was a big factor in what we did this season with beating the top teams. He puts in a lot of time to the Shelton baseball program, and he's very dedicated. Just like he's been dedicated for the past, I can't even 10 or 15 years. I think he's been
Yeah.
at Shelton.
Yeah. It's a long time now. Yeah.
Yeah. So it shows, the Shelton baseball program always has a good program, and I think
Right.
that's testament to him and the coaching staff and all of the Shelton programs that lead up to Shelton High.
Right.
But
Now,
yeah,
Connor, I know you mentioned it briefly a little earlier, but what's next for Connor Jensen, and will you continue to play baseball going forward?
I will continue to play baseball until they tell me to hang up my cleats because
Right.
I just love it. But I'm playing at Southern New Hampshire University.
Wow.
Um,
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm extremely excited. They have a great baseball program. They have so many different business avenues to go down.
Right.
So I'm extremely excited to go down there and play. I believe they were ranked 11th in the nation this season for
Right.
Division II baseball,
Oh,
and they
wow.
made it extremely far in the College World Series, which is really cool.
Right.
So I'm
Now,
excited to go up there and play some ball.
right. Now, you mentioned that you're probably going to play a lot of the outfield there. Will you pitch as well, do you think?
That's my goal, is to pitch there.
Right.
And I have to talk to my coach up there to see, what he's thinking as far as hitting or pitching or outfield, what I should really focus on this summer.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I'm gonna try and pitch. I'm gonna try and hit, and then we'll see what happens. I'll
Right.
try and do what I can.
Right. And that, sounds like you're motivated, and that's the key to being successful. Connor, let me ask you this. What has been the most rewarding thing about the game of baseball to you? I know, like, you've had success, the All SEC, the Ed Morocco Award, the one hitter against hand. You've had quite the accolades, but what would you say is most rewarding to you about this game?
It's a game that is so unique compared to other sports, where you can go out on the field and, like you said before, you can have a great outing and dominate and control the game, or you can have the complete opposite. And I think it's so cool to have that real life connection with sports, because in life you're not going to succeed all the time. In life
Right.
you're going to fail. So I think being put through those positions in a sporting event is invaluable. And I think the game of baseball is so unique. I just have an extreme love for the game that I never want to stop playing.
Right. So I believe, is it this Tuesday you're graduating high school?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, Connor, talk about that just briefly. I mean, 4 years went by so quick. I mean, is it hard for you to believe that it flew by like it did?
It did fly, especially this year with being on distance learning and then being in person and
Right.
having a baseball season. Having a baseball season, I always find makes time fly by because you're always
Right.
busy, you're always doing something.
Yeah.
And this year, especially, I remember at the beginning of the year, I was like, oh God, we're doing the same stuff in, this class, and I don't feel like doing it right now. And you
Right.
do it because, you have to, and grades are obviously very important. But yeah, it went by in a blur. It's crazy to think that I'm graduating in 2 days.
Wow. Connor, before we go, what advice would you give to, you know, the future Connor Jensens that are going to be coming up, that love baseball or love basketball, softball, whatever it may be? I know you have a younger sister, and I
Yeah.
know she likes sports too. I mean, what advice would you give them if they want to, better themselves in whatever they're doing?
Yeah, there's no easy shortcuts. You have to work hard.
Right.
I mean, there are definitely guys out there that are extremely talented that get away with it, but hard work always beats talent and natural talent. And I think that's a big message that needs to be heard, because you have to work hard. There's no shortcuts. As many you can try and find shortcuts, but it doesn't work out. So you have to work hard, get in the weight room, lift, do whatever you can to better yourself and better your game.
I know, Connor, it's no surprise that you've been successful and had the season you had, because that's the best advice you could give anybody. But, first off, I want to congratulate you again on a great season, on a great high school career. I remember you when you were like 11 years old. So to see you and Anthony both having the seasons that you had, puts a smile on my face, and I'm very happy for you and proud of you. So
Thank you.
congratulations on, you know, all the success you've had in sports, school, and I wish you the best of luck, next season.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on. It's my honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, there you have it, folks. I first met Connor Jensen, I want to say around 2014. I used to watch him every day with his father working on the game of basketball. But you know what? There was one sport that he always loved more than anything else, and that was baseball. But the way I saw him work in basketball, I have to believe he was just that dedicated to baseball 1,000% more. This kid had a goal in mind, and the goal was to be the best he could be. Not only is he a great player, a great pitcher, he's also a great teammate. You heard Anthony Steele mention him last week about what he means to the team. Connor is everything that you want a teammate to be, because as much as he enjoys, being successful and doing great things, he takes more pride in seeing his teammates be successful and seeing the team do well. That's what the complete player is. It's no surprise that Derek Jeter was the guy he idolized, because he did it that way as well. We know Connor Jensen is going to do great things in his life. We know he's going to continue to play baseball. And even, if his baseball career does end someday, we know he'll do something great, because that's the type of kid he is. For In the Spotlight, I'm Mike Kenichi saying goodbye, everyone.